Hey there, welcome back to Jason's Pen Journey. I'm coming back after the first day of the San Francisco Stationery Fest. It's the inaugural Stationery Fest here in the Bay Area. Um I went to day one. I did not go to day two, and I don't think I'm going to be going to day three. Um, Not for any reason other than I had other plans, and I think I got through everything I really wanted to get through on day one. So let me give you a little bit of rundown on what the show is. This is a show that is put on by the same organizers as the San Francisco Pen Show that happens in August. I did a four-part series last summer, recapping that show of my experience going to that show. It was my first time going to a pen show. The Stationery Fest this year is the first time that we're kind of splitting off the two um, kind of constituencies of this community. So the organizers are creating a kind of standalone show for more of the stationery and non-pen focused exhibitors and attendees. So this one was catering more towards journalers, people who are aficionados for washi tape and stamps and cards, and a lot more around kind of the non pen and ink parts of the hobby. So it's a different focus, and as such, you're going to get different crowds. You're going to get different vendors and exhibitors, different classes being taught. And while there's a considerable amount of overlap both in the community and the exhibitors, they are definitely different. So folks who've got more experience going to these conferences, shows, festivals, events will give you more in depth. But I'll just tell you my experience. So you heard a lot of my experience at the Penn Show last year. This one, having been through it once with a large pen show, the San Francisco one is one of the largest in the United States. And that was the first time I've been to anything like that in terms of the fountain pen hobby. This one is comparable but a little smaller. So the number of vendors and exhibitors was smaller. So the pen show was they're both taking place at the same location, the Westin Hotel in Millbrae, California, near the San Francisco airport. So same location, same venue, but not as large. So they still have the main ballroom. They had the the hallway around the ballroom, and then behind the ballroom, those were filled with vendors, but none of the kind of the side rooms in the hotel were taken up by vendors. Those were, I think, being used for some of the classes that were being offered, but I think they were just closed off for the most part. So it's a little bit smaller. Probably, if you think about the total number of vendors, probably talking about 75% of what the Penn Show had, maybe a little bit less if I think through all those. So, comparable, but not quite as large. I went for the first day. I had the all access pass for the whole weekend. I booked it early just to make sure I had the tickets. I didn't really have my plans for the weekend all sorted out by that point. It was me and my wife also went. So we were there for, I actually wound up going a couple of times yesterday for a variety of reasons. Since we live relatively near the hotel, it's kind of easy to go back and forth, and to kind of deal with stuff on the home front in the middle of the day. But I went. I actually went the night before to try to pick up my all access pass, but there was a little bit of a snafu with the passes, so couldn't collect those. So I went first thing in the morning on Friday, collected my pass, checked in, and actually I went in to pick up some things for a couple of friends that I knew were going to be selling out. So I had put out the call to a couple of communities online of people who weren't able to go, were looking for anything in particular and needed somebody to pick them up for them. I said I'll take care of that. So I got in a little early just to make sure I took care of those things for other people. I didn't have anything that I specifically was looking for, so I wasn't so much worrying about doing my shopping yet. So I went in when I got there 8:45 in the morning for a 9 o'clock open to pick up my pass. And then get in line with the doors opening at 9 o'clock for the early access folks. Um, the line, kind of was going from the ballroom out through the lobby of the hotel out into by the the parking lot area. So it was definitely like people were ready to get in there and get going with their shopping. But it wasn't crazy. It wasn't as bad as it was at the Penn Show last summer. The line wasn't quite as long. It was also, not as hot, so it was easier to stand outside for a few minutes. I was only outside for, maybe 10 minutes, not even that, so no big deal. Doors opened, everybody filed in, and immediately it was less. It was noticeable that it was not as busy as the Penn Show was, at least on the Friday. Um, Less vendors meant less people, meant less of a crowd. So it was much more manageable and not as uncomfortable. I have heard that day two, Saturday, is still going today as I'm recording. I have heard that the crowd is much, much larger with the general admission folks coming in today and the same day passes. Um, Apparently, somebody said it was 5 times as many people and it was really uncomfortable and crowded, which I can believe based on what I saw at the Penn Show last year in terms of how they crammed everybody in, which is really unfortunate because it really diminishes the experience of going to this convention if you can't move around, if you're not feeling comfortable, or if you're so crowded that you don't even feel safe. So I'm curious to hear how other people went today, and you hear more about that as kind of the recaps and the reports filter out, and see what that was like. So it would be unfortunate if it was that kind of crowd experience on day two, and day three. Who knows? It's a Sunday. It may be less people because it's not as big of a day. Vendors may start breaking down their tables and going home. Who knows? I don't know. Don't think I'll be going, so I don't know. There were a lot of classes being offered this year. I actually didn't sign up for any classes ahead of time. I did sign up for one event at a time, which I'll tell you about in a moment. But really, I was just going to kind of wander the floor and experience and say hello to some folks. The nice thing about having been part of this community for the last year plus is I have met folks, both the locals as well as some of the folks who are in from out of town and exhibitors and vendors. So kind of getting friendly with some folks. So it was good to see folks, good to see people in from out of town. Um, and I knew I would buy stuff. I wasn't really worried about that, but it wasn't going to be as crazy as it was for my budget and for my wallet as it was last summer. Mainly because it wasn't a fountain pen focused event. So the high price items that I had been looking at last year just weren't going to be there this year. And there were some fountain pen vendors, but it was a very small amount. And in fact, it was only, as I recall, one dedicated fountain pen table, and that was Navalor was the only uh, fountain pen only vendor that I can recall that had their own table. There were a few other pen makers that were sharing tables or just kind of like hanging out. There were retailers that did have tables, so you could get fountain pens, but it was not a fountain pen show. Um, so it was going to be a little cheaper on my wallet, which is good because I had also made some other purchases in the month of March that drove up the price. So let me show you some things. Let me flip over to my overhead camera here. So first up, let me just show you the badge. The badge this year, despite the fact this being the same organizers and kind of event staff of the San Francisco Pen Show, the badge this year was a little nicer. So this is the one from the Pen Show last year. It's a little smaller, a little flimsier. The lanyard clip not quite as sturdy, not as vibrant of material. It did have the San Francisco International Pen Show listed on it, but this one it's a little more substantial, and cool design on the back. SF. Um, Lanyard is a little nicer, a little thicker. And this one, so I don't know all the color coding. I know the vendors had something a little different. But the one of the cool things is when I picked this up, I said, "What is sticky sticker shell?" I had no idea what that was, and it turned out that they were actually doing a raffle on Instagram or they revealed it on Instagram, where these were kind of random name generators. The sticky sticker shell, there were three names, so everybody had a different three word combo on their all access pass. Because I noticed my wife had also her pass also had a different set of names or a different set of words, and it turned out that that was actually how they were raffling things off. So that was a cool little gimmick. I didn't win. She didn't win. Um, One thing I would love to see next year or next event is kind of the double clip system. One of the things that I learned last year is that when you have these lanyards that kind of flip around, it's really easy for it to flip over to the backside, so you're blocking your name. And part of it is you're wearing this so people know who you are, and can recognize your name if you're somebody who's got any kind of online presence, but even just to have a name out there, it's more personable. So one of the things that we did at my company conference this year is we actually had this two clip system, which allowed the badge to kind of lay flat against your chest. So that's a little bit nicer of an idea. And I apologize for the dog barking if you can hear it in the microphone. Um, but that would be a really cool thing. But one thing that a trick that I learned last year is if you take a button and clip that to your lanyard, and then clip that to your shirt, it's a good way to keep it staying as is. So, shout out to the gentleman stationer who will come back up in this presentation video recording. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. I've lost track. Dog barking. Okay, so that's the badge. Not that exciting of a badge, but kind of cool. So let's talk about the haul that I got. This is, again, I did not go crazy like I did at the pen show. The first thing that you're going to ask me is, did you get any pens? Well, I got one. So compare that to last year when I got 20. More sedate, more restrained. Partly due to my collection has grown quite a bit since then. Partly due to there just wasn't as much on offer. So I did get my arm twisted and bought this Heinz Pen Company. This is their Slepner model. It's an A24 size. Or I think A24 is their model. I actually need to do some research into that. But it was a really cool, just sparkly. It caught my eye. There were two of them they were the Heinz gentleman. I wish I grabbed his name. I apologize. But he was kind of co-tabling at the Stationery Universe table. And he had a series of pens out there. He had just come from the Arkansas Pen Show the weekend before, and the rest of the Heinz Penco folks were at the Atlanta Pen Show, which was going on this weekend as well. So the pen community is all split. The most of the makers were over in Atlanta this weekend instead of San Francisco. So there wasn't a lot on offer, but this is a really cool pen. I haven't even inked it up yet. I had to clean it because he had tuned it just before selling it. So it was still drying. But nice blue nib. The Slepner model, which I'll spend more time with this when I actually have a chance to ink it up. Slepner is this faceted, and it's got 8 sides. So Slepner is apparently the Odin, the Norse god. If you've watched the Thor movies, Odin. Apparently Slepner was this 8-legged horse. So that's where the name comes from. So here's the Heinz logo on the finial. But we'll talk about that pen at a later date. Again, I haven't had a chance to ink it up yet and try it out. So I did buy. Well, I'll keep the pen out. I did buy from a company called Fountain Pendulum. I bought this little pen tray. I thought this would be a good one, especially for some of my videos. I can do 3 pens side by side. So to give you a sneak peek of what that would look like, here's the Sleipner with a Sailor 1911 large and a Lamy Safari, just for size comparisons. It was a suggestion my brother gave me about when I do these videos to show them side by side. So when I saw this little pen tray from Fountain Pendulum, I said that'd be a cool. It's a nice wood. This one's in a maple wood. Just kind of nice, light, bright pen tray that I can put on my desk. I also got this little ink vial stabilizer holder from them. So if you take an ink vial, and if you're ever filling up a sample for somebody, you know that these sample bottles will very quickly topple over on your desk. So when you're filling ink, that's not the last thing you want to have happen. That ain't going to move around. So really nice. Again, I grabbed the maple to match. So when you're filling up a ink sample on your desk, good way to do it. Previously, I have used these giant lab trays that are really actually built for these things, which are great. But I'm usually doing like 1 or 2. I don't need a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. A 50 ink vial tray. I'm never doing that many samples at once, so it's really overkill. So I thought this was cute. It was functional. It's nice. It'll go nicely on my desk. So Fountain Pendulum out of Canada. Get that away. What else did I buy? So the thing I bought a lot of was ink, which there were people selling ink. It wasn't like a one company that was an ink company there this year, but there were a few vendors that had some cool inks that I had either known the brand that were selling them, or one I wanted to check out. So first one that I got, or first set, was from Oblation Paper out of Portland. So first they had their, I think this was their pen show color of 2025. It's called Cascade Cider. I'll show you all the swatches in a moment. And then I got a couple of bottles of their some other ones they have. One is Portland Rain and Sitka Spruce. So we'll bring the swatches in for those 3. So you've got Cascade Cider, Sitka Spruce, and Cascade Cider, Portland Rain, Sitka Spruce. So you've got kind of a burnt orange, amber, kind of a light purple, not light, but kind of grayish purple, like the rain, and then this really kind of nice deep green. And then move those out of the way. Turns out I kept buying things that were green and purple and orange, because the next person I bought from was Blake from the Paper Mind, who also had a purple and an orange and a green. So apparently I'm in a orange, purple, and green mood lately. So these are collabs that Paper Mind did with Andorelium, an ink that I really enjoy. So he's got Prometheus Orange, Narcissus Purple, and Osiris Green. And let me bring those swatches in so you can see those. There's the Narcissus Purple, the Osiris Green, and the Prometheus Orange. So the nice thing is, despite the fact that I got purples oranges and greens, they are a little different. So the Prometheus orange is a little lighter than the Cascade cider. So the Cascade cider is probably a little more brown with the orange. The Narcissus purple is a deeper purple, maybe a little more, almost a black purple compared to the Portland Rain. That's a little more gray. The Sitka spruce is a lighter, or probably a little more vibrant green. If you think about the Pacific Northwest, that vibrant green that you get in the summer, whereas the Osiris green is a little more of an olive. So these are nice comparisons, and it turned out that I wound up getting three, two from two different vendors that had very similar colors. The other two inks that I wound up getting were from also I bought from Oblation, but it's not an Oblation ink. It's the Waringal Crime and Punishment. I've been loving these inks, the World of Literature inks that Waringal makes, and that one is a very dark green, another olive, probably closer. It's even darker than that Osiris green here, but it's green. Trust me, it's not black. It's hard showing up on the swatch, but it is a very dark olive green. And then to round out the greens, I got from Amarillo Stationery the Sailor and Tintarius Cilantro. I had bought the blue corn from the same collaboration from Eric Gama at Amarillo Stationery at the Pen Show last year, and I love that blue corn, which is also kind of a purplish, bluish purple. So the cilantro was another one to grab, and that one comes out to be a lighter green than the other one. So I wound up with 4 different greens. Turned out all different shades. 2 different purples that were different shades, and 2 different oranges that were different shades. So I got plenty more ink to go. Looking forward to putting these in some pens, besides just swatching them up. And then while I was talking to Oblation Paper, I also got from them these stamps from the Portland Stamp Company. So these are what's called poster stamps. Sorry, I'm reading the back without showing the price. And these are from the Portland Stamp Company, for the love of stamps. Let's see if I can read this for you, because it's going to be hard to read. We make stamps the old-fashioned way, lick and stick, pinhole perforated poster stamps on dry gum-backed paper with a 100% foot-powered Rossback perforator. We also make a line of blank lick and stick stamps, so you can make your own stamps at home. Our stamps are what's known as poster stamps or Cinderella stamps. They're decorative and do not contain any monetary postal value. And then there's more about their website. So I thought these would be fun to include on any kind of correspondence I send. So you've got ones that are you've got snail mail. And then there were 2 other sets. One is called the Drunk Cats stamps. So these were fun. I'm not a big cat person. I'm more of a dog person, but these were fun. So I thought these would just be some cool, nice additions to sending out any correspondence. And the artists here are Arna Miller and Ravi Zupa. And then there's also a second set. This one's called Complicated Friendship, and these are dogs and cats. And just really cool art. Part of the Strike Your Fancy series created by Ravi Zupa and Arna Miller. So, Portland Stamp Company, cool stuff there. Who else? Let's see. I mentioned Stationery Universe, which is where the Heinz guy was tabling. From the Stationery Universe, I got these note cards. These are from an artist named Lindsay Thomas, designed and printed in the UK. So Lindsay Thomas artwork, art and illustration. And these are just note cards with envelopes. So there's one in green, there's one in kind of purple pink, and then one in blue. So these are They're all showing, a variety of fountain pens and inks, and they're all a little different from color to color. So you got your Lamy Safaris, your Roshizuku ink, your Visconti, your Edelstein, I would say Kaweco. What is that? Probably a Sailor Pro Gear. I don't know. Maybe another Sailor, 1911, maybe a Pelican, a Pilot, another Kaweco, Twisby Echo, a Visconti, a Diamine ink, Coco and Daisy table. April wanted to really visit them. She's a big fan of their work. So while I was kind of browsing with her as she was picking some things out, we saw these nice fountain pen inspired note cards. So letters left behind, your words linger softly, pressed between pages and time, ink fades, but feeling stays, a quiet forever written by hand. So, um, nice little note cards to use and send out for a variety of things. Got some paper. So first up, Canopus Note. This is the 2025 best paper. This one's been catching a lot of attention. So my brother asked me to pick up one of the notebooks for him. So while we were at the Yamamoto paper table, got one for Mark, got one for April, got one for me. So got some business to the Yamamoto Paper Company. While I was at Amarillo Stationery, buying the cilantro ink, I also got this nice Mr. Rogue Rouge notebook. So nice thick. What is it? 180 pages of 90 GSM, made in Mexico. Nice notebook. And then finally, a new design company that I was talking to the gentleman there, Tandem Design Company out of San Francisco. They are focused on accessibility with their design. So I think you can see this. On each of these sticky notes, it's actually Braille. So the color is written out in Braille. So this one, I don't know how to read Braille, but it says green, blue, purple, and then of course it's reflecting the light, yellow underneath the sticker, and the cellophane orange, and then red. So these are just sticky note pads, the kind of the small usual things you'd see in an office supply, but with the Braille on them. So it was a cool story. They are focused on inclusivity in a colorful world, one idea at a time. So check out Tandem Design Co. It's kind of cool story. What else can I tell you? So that was my haul. Not that bad considering how much I was doing back at the show last year. April bought some things as well. She bought one of the Slepner pens from Heinz for her friend Kim. She bought herself a Pelican M200 in Cherry Blossom from Oblation. She got another ink. She got some other, stamps and cards. I bought a couple of prints for her office at home that I don't obviously have with me. That I've given them to her as presents. Those were from the Little Red House, I think was the name. I'll double check on that. But really cool art got for my wife. The last thing, or second last thing about the show. So like I said, I didn't go to any classes this time around. There were a few that I was somewhat interested in, but it would have been on Saturday and Sunday, and I just didn't. I don't think I want to spend my whole day at the show. I have some other things going on this weekend, so not gonna go to those classes. And they were so compelling that I had to drop everything. So some of the classes that I actually did last year are being replayed. Some of the same instructors are offering, such as Elevate Your Everyday Handwriting with Kimberly Lau. Julia Van Wyck was doing some things. Corolla from Corolla on Instagram, which I didn't do, but my wife did last year. They're doing her abstract floral. I'm gonna get this completely wrong, so apologies, Corolla. Her abstract watercolor art with floral flowers with watercolors. I don't know. Um, Not a class I went to, but apologies on that. But the thing that I did do last evening was the On the Paper Trail podcast was doing a live recording of their next episode. So Joe Crace and Lisa Van Ness from respectively the Gentleman Stationer and Van Ness Pens were tabling at the show, and then they were also recording their podcast live in front of a studio audience. So I was in the audience there, so got to go enjoy the recording, asked a question. We had some chit chat before and after the podcast recording. So it was good to see Joe and Lisa in person, and got to meet some folks that I hadn't met in person as a result of hanging out at that podcast episode recording. So thank you to the folks that all showed up for that event. It was a fun way to kind of cap off the evening, and I look forward to everybody getting a chance to see that episode because it was fun. And it's fun to do that in person, and definitely like and subscribe their podcast. They actually do it on YouTube, so I'll leave a link to their channel, not to their episode because it's not published yet. So that will do it for my recap of the San Francisco Stationery Fest. Day one, I didn't go to day two and day three, or day three hasn't happened yet, but I won't be going, I don't think. Not planning on it. Yeah, like I said, fun time. It was great to see so many people enthusiastic about stationery. It is a different crowd at this show than the Fountain Pen show, but that's okay. That's why it's a second show. It's a sibling show, so there's room for more people and broaden the horizons. And one of the things that I don't want to steal the thunder from the podcast episode that Lisa and Joe did, but they talk about that a lot. It's there's these are really big communities, that there's some overlap in the Venn diagram, but not a huge overlap. And it's actually going to be surprising at how big that kind of stationary community is, even bigger outside of the fountain pen and the pen world. It's that stuff is much larger than the pen community in the grand scheme of things worldwide. So anybody who's catching my channel from the stationery world, welcome. Hope you'll stick around. Hope you enjoyed this video. Would love to hear more about your experiences at the SF Stationery Fest. And give a like, give a like to the video, give a subscribe to the channel, drop some comments in the feed. And until I see you next time, keep on writing.